My name's Garrett. I grew up in a suburb of Los Angeles called Santa Clarita, and I'm a performer.
My name is Brian McCann. I'm from County Limerick in Ireland.
My name's Richard Taylor Woods. I'm from Oxford in the UK. I grew up in a small place called Kidlington.
Unity began pretty organically. We all met doing a production of Mamma Mia, and we had a lot of downtime.
Over in Miami, and then on a cruise ship for Royal Caribbean.
We were there for a long time. We were there for, I think, at sea for 10 months, which is a real long time.
So me and the lads, the dads and the young lover in Mamma Mia, came up with this idea to do a Christmas show. And we pitched it to the cruise ship director, if you will.
We did a little audition for him, and we prepared 2 songs. And we said, listen, we don't want to ask you to give us a spot, but we want you to come and watch us. We prepared a little audition. So we sat him down on this little chair, and we performed two songs for him, and we finished, and he said, look, normally we don't do this, and we have guest entertainers come on. You're the production cast, that's what you do. The guest entertainers do what they do. He said, but I really liked what I've just seen, and I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission.
And he said, I love it. I'll give you a space in the theater. How's January 1st? How's New Year's Day? And so then at that point, we had 2 months to get the show together. It was no longer a Christmas show. It was going to be a full production show. And it was so cool how organically it all came together. Some of us did the choreography. Some of us did the vocal arranging. And it was such a collaborative effort.
And we had like 4 weeks, I think, to piece together a 45-minute show. Now, as I said, we had one song. We had Winner Takes It All, and we had Silent Night. We had to get rid of Silent Night because we were no longer doing a Christmas show. So we had to put together like 10 other songs for 4 people, which is a challenge, but it was a challenge that we rose to. And we didn't want it to just be, 4 guys singing 10 songs, bow, good night. We wanted to put our own personalities into it. We wanted to make it funny. We wanted to make it more like a variety show.
And then we were on. We had one show, one night.
We looked at each other and we went, oh, we're doing this. This is actually happening. There's no turning back now.
That was one of those core memories that just stays with you forever. It was New Year's Day, and so we were up till midnight the night before. I even had to sing Auld Lang Syne to the guests at midnight. And it was the day of the show, New Year's Day. And the reaction of the crowd and that feeling of creating something and putting it out to the universe and getting that feedback, it's like one of the warmest, coolest memories that I'll have for the rest of my life. It was incredible. They went crazy for that show.
Yeah, the response we got from the audience was kind of beyond what we could have imagined it would have been. And I think it took us all by surprise, to be honest. Although we thought we'd put something together really well, and it was it was exciting and fun to watch. And we worked on our own harmony lines, and different members of the band were singing lead on different songs, and it was eclectic.
We've got this screen that flies out when we appear, and I remember we just got the call that we were going to go, and the screen was about to fly out. Now everyone handles these things differently. Some people are jumping up and down, sort of pacing. Some people are just really silent. Some people are really talkative. And I remember it was just like hearing some white noise. I could see people around me, but I was just trying to be so focused. Once that screen went out, once we walked forward and we got a round of applause from the audience, I knew. I was like, okay.
It was like a real group mentality. And so the show that you see today is a little piece of each of us. No one was in charge. And it's hard to even recall like who came up with the name or who chose this song. Like it all came so naturally that it's hard to even pinpoint which idea originated from who.
After the New Year's Day gig, our first Unity gig, we were really lucky because on that ship that we were working on, there was a broadcast team on that ship, and we managed to convince them. I think we paid them, you know, a little bit of backhander. We said, look, if we give you some cash, will you come and film the show for us? And on the ship, the broadcast cameras, they're kind of TV spec cameras. And so the quality was really good, and we got it recorded into the desk, into the sound desk, and managed to essentially create a little promo reel for ourselves, like 4 or 5 minute promo reel, which looked and sounded really good. And that show reel found its way to an agent in Las Vegas, and he got in touch.
Not really knowing what was going to happen, if you just look at it and say, oh, that's really good, you know, come back in a year or two, or, you know, not quite for me. Once he saw it, he immediately got on the phone and was like, you guys are amazing, we want to sign you.
We'd wanted to get an agent. I think we talked about that, and we'd sort of said it'd be great to get an agent and do more of these kind of gigs on other cruise ships. We had no idea how to go about that. We'd only seen guest entertainers. We hadn't actually talked to any to see how that process works. And so we said, yeah, let's do a Zoom, absolutely. So we jumped on the Zoom, and he outlined to us, you know, what it entailed, how it works, you know, how gigs get offered, and what to expect. We kind of went away, and we were like, well, I mean, it's a no-brainer. This is this guy that can put us on ships, and he's based in Las Vegas, and it all sounded very glamorous and stuff. And so we signed with him, and that was how it happened.
And we all know what happened in 2020. So the band went in hiatus during COVID because the cruise industry shut down. We had our agent at that point, but we just waited COVID out, didn't know how long it was going to last.
We were going to go on and do a whole load of bookings, a whole load of ships, and sort of the industry closed down for about 2 years.
We were rehearsing our parts at our houses. We were doing Skype and FaceTimes and trying to like arrange the show. We had one rehearsal in LA when we all got together, and then it was like showtime in April 2022.
Post-COVID, it all changed. We lost 2 members of the original lineup. Priorities had changed. It didn't work for everyone. People had to earn a living, but we managed to keep the core of the group together. And I think it turned out the way it was meant to be.
My name is Austin Turner. I grew up in New Jersey, about 2 hours south of New York City. In 2022, Unity needed a sub for one of their gigs, and I had worked with Brian in the past. We did a We Will Rock You on a Royal Caribbean ship. And so I had done a production of Rent a couple months prior, and so Brian didn't really think to reach out to me because he thought I was still in that production, but it had ended. And so Brian put a post out on Facebook and said, Unity needs a sub, we need a tenor. And so I commented on the post, and about a month later I was on board with the rest of the guys. That was a Princess Cruises ship, and I think we went to Maine, we went to Boston, we went up to Canada, Nova Scotia maybe. So that's sort of how I joined the group. I subbed in, and then we just decided that it might be fun if I stick around. And so I'm really lucky that the guys asked me to stick around after that sub gig, and the rest is history.
So my role as such was sort of teaching the harmonies, putting together, make sure they're nice and clean, everyone's together, everyone's pitch is on point.
I'm the comedic relief for sure. I sing some too. I do the Elvis thing, but I would say for the most part, the jokes, the humor, the quick wit, that's mostly what I bring. It was kind of, it was a bit drab before I got here, and I said, let's spice it up.
I'm the most assertive of the group. I just finished packing. The flight's tomorrow. I'm a little nervous. Got my stuff all packed, suits.
Heathrow Airport, Saturday night. It's quite quiet actually. Flying solo to Beijing, and normally I'm flying with Brian, but Brian's already in the Far East. We're heading down to Tokyo for a Unity tour of Japan, which will be fun.
How long's our flight? 12 hours? We've got a 12-hour flight?
12 and a half. We're gonna chase the sun the whole way, so the sun's never gonna set, I don't think.
So the pilot's gonna be like this the whole time?
Yeah, according to my calculations, the sun's not gonna be setting until after.
I got to the check-in desk and the woman asked for my e-ticket number. She said, "Oh, I just need the last three digits," which I gave to her. They were like 146 or something, and I said 145. She went 145. Like she was absolutely disgusted with the three numbers I'd just given her. Just waiting in Beijing for my connecting flight. This is where the tiredness starts to creep in. Just got to push on through, nearly there now. The flight wasn't too bad. I'm looking forward to seeing the boys. I think they'll be arriving about now, actually.
We made it. Here we are in the airport, getting the train.
It's going to be fun. Not seen each other for a bit, so it's going to be exciting when we see each other again.
Richie?
Just heard a knock at my door. Who is it? Hey!
You reminded me there.
Hey. Oh, you've done it as well!
I did it too!
Oh,
God.
oh, mate.
Sweet Daddy Brian. I brought you a coffee. It's your husband Garrett. I hear movement.
I brought a coffee for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude. Well, we'll go into mine then. Come here when you're ready.
I will.
The fact that we live in all parts of the world definitely complicates the whole thing. We have to get flights from 4 different cities. We're dealing with different time zones that we're trying to meet. This last gig, the one that we're on right now, one of us was in Singapore, one in London, one in New York, and one in LA. And we're trying to organize times so we can all chat with each other at the same time. And that, like, is a logistical nightmare. Like, one of us was up at 7 a.m. while the other was up at 11 p.m. doing this FaceTime. It was just like, that's the love of the craft. That's where the love of the art comes in.
So we stay in touch on WhatsApp, and we have some Zoom calls to touch base, to remind each other of some things.
I'm not going to lie, it's difficult. The fact that, I mean, the thing is about our show, one of the kind of, well, the backbone of our show is the fact that we're from all different parts of the world, and we've kind of worked our stories into the show. Then that's part of who we are. That's part of, if you like, part of our charm. And that in itself, although that's, how we present ourselves, it is difficult because we do live, literally transatlantic.
It can get a bit tricky. I live in the UK, but I don't live in London. I live in Plymouth with my wife, which is 3.5 hours from London and all the major airports. So if we're booked on a ship that, say, leaves on the 20th of the month, I'm usually leaving around the 17th of the month because I have to get from Plymouth to London to the airport, then we need to fly usually a day before we sign on the ship. So it's a 2 or 3 day process before we even sign on. So it can be, if we're flying onto a ship for 2 days, it will turn into like a 7-day process, because traveling from Plymouth to London to the ship, from the ship to London to Plymouth, it can be tricky, but it is worth it. I mean, it's what we love doing, so it doesn't feel like work.
When we get offered a cruise contract, that email will come in, normally followed by a phone call, and we have like a scheduled diary where we can sort of say where we're free and where we're not. Like, we can block out time if we're not free, or we're already on another cruise, or we're doing a gig somewhere. So if that calendar says open and free and it's green, we say yes immediately. Generally, the cruise ships like to have their answer like in a really short space of time, which again, for us, being in 4 corners of the world, for everyone to say yes immediately is really tricky, because you know, you have someone in LA that's asleep and someone in London that's awake.
So the turnaround for the offer is quick. As soon as we get the offer, they want an answer within like 12 hours. So the pressure comes for us all to communicate with one another in all the different time zones. Are you free? Are you free? Are you free? And once the four of us say, yes, we're in, it's a quick turnaround. They want an answer right away.
Yeah, so since there's four of us, we have, it's mostly Rich and Brian who are the contacts with our agent. It just might be a little bit complicated if all four of us were constantly in contact with the agent. So either Brian or Rich will get an email from our agent, which is a potential offer, usually. Sometimes it's simply an availability check, but a lot of times it's an offer for a cruise gig. It might be a gig that's 5 days, it might be a gig that's 18 days, and the gig that we're getting an offer for might be a month away, and it might be 6 months away. But our agent contacts Brian and Rich. They're kind of the point people for that. And then Brian and Rich will reach out to Garrett and I, you know, the whole group over our WhatsApp chat, and share the proposed gig with us, and make sure that everyone is happy with the you know, the contract that's been offered, and make sure everybody has availability. And then we get back to our agent and we say, heck yeah, we're in.
Usually our rule of thumb is accept it, and then we'll tell the guys we're doing it later on. And vice versa, if Garrett was to get the offer first, it might be the day for him and the night for us. He knows to accept the gig and then tell us the next day. So that's the first point of call. Then we need to make sure we've got our flights, you know, and once that's all arranged, we pack a bag and we go.
We have to make sure that we're all in the city the day before, because we can't be flying in the day of the cruise. There's too much that could go wrong with that. So that coming in the day before is nice as well, because it helps us adjust to the time change. If we're flying to Tahiti or Japan or Portugal, all places we've had to fly to before, that day before gives us a chance to adjust to the time change.
The theatres on the ship that we perform in are pretty spectacular. There's, you know, hydraulic stages, there's LED screens, lasers, you know, everything you would expect from like a West End or a Broadway theatre, and then some. It's really quite impressive, really high spec, and we get to use all of that stuff. I think the ships want to present their acts as, you know, in the best possible light.
Theater, the setup, the venue is different every time. Sometimes we're on a really nice big stage with an amazing LED wall behind us that does all kinds of graphics, that shows all kinds of graphics, which we provide to the theater. We've also done ships where we are on a stage that is sort of like arena seating, where the stage is in the center and we've got almost 360 degrees of seats around us. So every gig is different.
We get the 9-piece band, we get the LED screens behind us, and that's our full show, because we use video. The band helps breathe life into the show that a track doesn't have. A live band is always like the way to go, because now there's 13 of us on stage instead of 4, and that just adds a level of like excitement for the audience.
Our first food in Japan, and I thought it was important that we have proper Japanese cuisine to start off our tour. So here it is. Pancakes and cream.
So when we sign on a ship, we go through the same process as the guests do. So we arrive at the port, we check in with the front desk, we give our passports, they check with the booking, make sure that we're on the manifest. Then we go through the security, put our cases through, as all the other guests do. Then when we get on the ship, we usually go to guest services, get our card, our CPAS card, so we can come and go, get into our rooms, etc. We usually check into our rooms. It's mostly a case of dump the suitcase, now we go and find the cruise director or the production manager.
Each cruise line's a little bit different, but when we get on the ship, we mostly stay in guest cabins. Sometimes we have to share a room, which is fine. Sometimes
we get to stay in guest areas, and sometimes we're in crew areas. It really all depends on how busy the ship is. If it's a really full ship, Obviously, the paying guests get precedent on rooms, but for the most part, we're in lovely guest rooms. Sometimes we get a balcony. That's always nice, and we kind of have guest status.
So we're not crew members. We're not in the crew manifest. We're on the guest manifest.
When we have settled into the ship, we get a performance schedule. So we get like a sheet of paper, and it will tell us our rehearsal times. It will tell us when the theatre's free. It will tell us when we are going to have a sound check, and that's normally either the day before or the day of the show. We could arrive on the ship and we may perform the next day, but we might not perform for like 5 or 6 days.
Sometimes they don't know when we're performing, so we just kind of have to wait, sit and wait for a few hours or maybe a day into the cruise, and then they'll really nail down what time and what venue on the ship we're performing.
We always try to find a room that has a piano, just more than anything to like warm our voices up, just kind of lock in those harmonies with each other as well. And we don't like to go straight into the theatre having not sung together. Even, you know, we might not have seen each other for a few weeks, so it's important that we kind of can solidify harmonies, and we can solidify spacing.
The show is now set. I mean, we've done cuts and trims and things, but we when we get on the ship is when we really tighten the vocals, review the vocals. It takes a lot to get the show to a crisp, professional level.
So we'll take it away, we'll sort of practice it ourselves, we'll get together again, we'll do a run through of the show. Again, maybe if we'll find a rehearsal space, like a business conference center or a lecture room, or just in the cabin, we'll perform the show without any of the lights, sound, mics, just for us.
And then, of course, into a sound check.
That's a wrap. That's amazing to see you on the night.
Sound check, baby.
Yeah, that was sound check, and that was rehearsal.
By the time it's our chance to perform, we're all pretty much dropped in and we're leveled out.
Then we'll go, we'll get dressed, we'll liaise back, usually again in Richard's room, and we'll walk to the backstage.
And then it's showtime.
And all I've lost, the more I've gained, 'cause it'll let us back to you.
Darkest night and mornings too, but now I've learned there's so much more to me. If I die, let me die.
The audience reaction is always one of the most fun parts of the job. I think it was 2 cruises ago, we did our performances. The 4 of us were sitting outside on the deck, and about 6 or 7 soccer player looking guys, rugby lads, however you would want to say it, came up to us and were like, "You guys were so awesome. That was so much fun. You guys are so cool." And I'll never forget that, because it was like, it made me think, we must look a little bit approachable from stage, right? We must seem a little bit personable from stage if these sports guys are going to come up and talk to us. But I'll say that it's the same for adults and for young adults and senior citizens.
Like, it is electric the way the audience responds to the show. I think we give them the greatest hits. The songs that we sing are so liked by generations that helps. We chose those songs ourselves, so we knew what we were doing with that. But they love a photo, they love a chat, they love to give feedback and recommend songs. They love to recommend songs for us to sing. They love to follow us on Instagram and social media and comment on things.
We'll get on the ship and we'll be anonymous for maybe 2 days, and on day 3, if we perform, after that, everybody knows who we are, and everyone wants to come up to us and have photographs, get us to sign autographs, and just chat to us about how it works, and how people seem to be really interested in what we do and how the process works, because they're all on vacation and a holiday, and we're obviously here to work, and they want to know the things that I'm talking to you about now.
And they usually recognize us pretty easily, and they usually want to come talk to us, which is really fun. We've even run into audience members in port after they've seen our show, and so that's cool too.
It's like being sort of mini celebrities, because everyone knows who you are on the ship, and it's something that get a bit embarrassing, especially for me, because I'm not quite, it's sort of like, oh my God, how do you know who I am? But we love it at the end of the day, and we love meeting people, we love saying hello to people, so it's a very special part of the whole experience.
I've always been a performer, first and foremost, whether that be in West End shows or in a pop group, in a play or a TV show. That's what I've done, and coming into Unity and being the type of band that we are, we're a gigging act. We're touring around the world, performing. Something I never expected to have to do and really learn about were the logistics of everything else, like making sure you got your band charts, your lighting plot, your sound design, your USBs for any like LED video screens that you might be using, your photographs, your promotional material. We have to control all of that. So when we get on that ship, all that stuff has to go to the if it hasn't been already sent, all that stuff has to go to the relevant departments.
We're juggling like 15 things at once. This is where a little more coordination comes in. We have Richard, who's in charge of getting the music and the screens to the right people. We've got Brian, who's in charge of the charts for the band, making sure the musicians are coming in on the right time.
You have to sit with the lighting operator, and you have to explain to him how your lighting plot works. Sit with the sound operator and say, right, this track is fired here, or this volume needs to be there, this mix in my ear needs to be there.
We got this group together because we wanted to be in charge of our own destinies. We wanted to make our own material. We wanted to produce our own art. If you're doing a musical theatre show, say in the West End, you'll have a production company who then pass down to a creative team, who will then pass down to a resident creative team, who will then pass it down to you. Everyone
has their own department, but essentially we are every department.
Look, I get it pretty easy. I'm not in control of too much. I'm just in control of my performance. It's really up to Brian to do all the charts, all the musical charts, and most of the music things, communicating with the band. And I find that Rich is usually the one who is doing a lot more admin stuff. Rich takes care of our graphics for us, which is great. Whenever we got the LED screens, all those wonderful graphics that play behind us.
The crew and the technicians on the ship are looking to us for guidance, because obviously we know our show and they don't. They're seeing everything for the first time. and you kind of forget after doing all those, doing all those things, you then have to go, oh, actually I have to get on stage and sing now as well. So when you're doing your sound checks and in performance, constantly you're thinking about the next lighting cue or the next sound cue, which you get used to, and eventually it just becomes second nature. But it is tricky for first off, when you're first doing it, you've got all those extra variables running around in your head. And then, you get to the point where you're like, is that my job? Oh, that's your job. Who was supposed to do that? Who was supposed to take that poster? Who was supposed to give the lighting guy that? It just takes time to iron out who's doing what. But it's rewarding, because when that show's finished, you know that you've created everything.
Getting everyone to be on the same exact page about what we can do to take the next step forward, right? And so we get together on a ship, and it's pretty easy because we're focused on performing the show that we've already created. And maybe we're brushing it up a little bit, but that's our focus when we're together on the ship.
That's kind of like the joy of it. I think I love being our own bosses. It's so nice that no one's bossing us around. We don't even have a director. I mean, we get to self-direct, and we get to tweak jokes and songs exactly how we want. We don't need anyone's approval. And that's so rare in our industry. We always have somebody in charge in our industry. We always have a director. We always have someone we're answering to. And this is like that one situation where it's like, I didn't like that joke. I didn't like that harmony. Let's change it, and we can. So that's one of the coolest things about this.
We wanted to make our own art. We wanted to decide when we're getting up, when we're arriving, what we're doing, what we're singing. So although that can be challenging, it's what we want to do, and it's what we want to do. It's why we set out to make this group. It's why we set out to do this show, so we could be in charge of our own destiny, our own career.
Every show we do is reviewed by the entertainment staff on the cruise line. Every show is given feedback. Every show matters. Every show could be the difference of getting booked again or not. We get rated. We get rated on a scale. I think it's 1 to 5 stars or 1 to 4 stars. So all of those ratings are visible to all of the other bookers. Every performance matters. And that pressure does get to us a little bit. I think we just all want the show to be good so badly for that reason. And so we take it really seriously. We really prepare for each contract like it is our opening night, because it is.
We never rest on our laurels. We never think we've made it. That's something we just don't allow ourselves. We never do a gig and go, right, we're done now. We can just sit back and wait. There's always someone else coming up behind you. There's always another group. There's always another variety act. There's always another show, and they want your spot. And so we can't let that happen. We're always, I wouldn't call it hustling, but we make sure we're moving all the time. We're getting better. We're refining the act. Every single contract we do, it has to be better than the last one. Or else, because if you're not moving forward, as the cliche goes, you're moving backwards.
So feedback will get sent back to sort of shore side, if you will. It will get sent back to the cruise line. And if it's good feedback, they'll try and plug us into another ship in their line. I don't think we've ever gotten bad feedback. So a lot of it is that if the cruise line likes you, they'll want to bring you on another ship.
Some of the corporate staff that work on board review it. That gets sent back to the head office of the cruise lines, and that is what they see. The frustrating thing for me is that someone just might not like your style of show. Say you do like a rock show, that person that's reviewing you might not like rock music, and they will mark you down. That doesn't mean to say you're giving a bad show. That just means to say that they didn't like your show, and that's what frustrates me. We did get a review once, and we were told it was too loud. Actually, the person that was reviewing it said, yeah, I liked your show, it was a bit loud. Now, to me, that's not our issue. That's your sound department that increased the volume too much. And we got marked down for that, which I think is unfair. And personally, for me, I do get frustrated with that, because that's corporate versus creative. That's a corporate person saying, this is what I didn't like about your show, that to me doesn't have any idea about the creative process whatsoever, and yet that person is responsible for you getting marked down and not getting rebooked. And I find that really frustrating, because that's not fair. That's not taken away from any, you know, high level performance that we may have given. That's down to their preference.
In general, if we're in a port and the guests are off the ship, there's no one for us to entertain. So we don't have shows usually when we're in port. Most of our shows are going to be on sea days. That means we get to get off at almost every port.
Sometimes you sit in a car park when you're in Japan, just trying to find somewhere to visit.
Falls. There's like a little 20-minute ride to a waterfall area.
Sounds fun. We get to visit all the places that the ship's port in, and I mean, that's amazing. That's a massive bonus. I love travel. I love new experiences. I love saying I've seen that place with my own eyes.
I'm not really a sunbather. You can probably tell by my complexion and the fact that I said I was from Ireland. So I usually avoid the sun at all costs. So I might stay in an air-conditioned room while the boys go to the beach. Or, you know, sometimes I go to the beach as long as I can find a nice shady umbrella to hide underneath.
We've been to Hawaii, we've been to Tahiti, we've been to Panama Canal, a lot of Europe, Caribbean, Canada.
Traveling the world with this is top 3 best parts about the whole experience. When would I get to go to Portugal and London and Japan?
Just because one day, you know, we might not be doing this anymore, and I want to kind of look back and go, what a great experience that was. So try to soak up the culture in the different places we visit, try to meet the local people, try to eat the local food, because I don't know when I'm going to be back there again, if ever. So I do enjoy the travel part of it, and it is a great experience.
Being a performer is a 24/7 job. I'm worrying about my vocal health. I'm worrying about my sleep schedule, warming up, working out. While the show may be at 7 that night, I'm preparing for that show days before.
Obviously, with an audience, you know, they're seeing the tip of the iceberg. They're seeing the most important bit, which is the live performance. You know, you want to be slick, you want to be clean, you want everything to be perfect, and your harmonies to be absolutely, you know, top notch. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that the audience don't see. You know, we're never really off the clock.
Even though there's a 1-hour show, it is a 24-hour prep for that 1-hour show. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that. They see like, oh, that was fun. All you have to do is show up and do one performance. But it is a maintenance unlike any other job that I can think of.
The work that goes in behind the scenes, the audience, they don't need to see that. As long as they enjoy your show, that's the most important thing. You know, they don't need to know that you've taken 4 flights to get there, or you haven't slept for 24 hours. Essentially, they're paying their money, you know, to come on the cruise. They want to be entertained, and that's what we do. But that doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, we work really hard to sort of cross every T and dot every I and make sure that we are ready and we can give them the best show when they get on board.
We've been very lucky. We seem to have the finger on the pulse of what these audiences love and like and enjoy. And this stems back from doing that Mamma Mia contract, because we were there for so long. We saw so many guest entertainers come on the ship. We saw what worked and what didn't work, and we were able to use that for our own show.
I would say we all do our best to touch the material when we're away from each other, when we're not working, when we're back at home. Touching the material, it might just mean listening over to it or watching footage of our performances, but there is a sense of we've got to keep it fresh, because sometimes we have a gig, you know, we have multiple gigs in a month.
Every ship that you do, every contract that you do, you're only ever one contract away from never getting booked again. You know, you have a bad show, or there's someone that you perhaps don't see eye to eye with on the ship. All it takes is for that person to go, nah, don't like them, no, didn't like that, and then you don't get booked again. So you're always, you know, putting your best foot forward, presenting yourself in the best possible way, and and you're only as good as your last contract.
Again, we'll make sure, like Richard will make sure that the lights are up to date, maybe like refine them, make sure the posters are a bit better, make sure that the effects are a bit better on the stage, constantly making the group relevant and better than the people who are trying to take our spot.
So the original songs came later. Once the show was set, I think the kind of excitement to take it to the next level kicked in. And I have to admit, I'm not at the helm of the original songs. I participate in them, but I'm not the writer or the creator. That's mostly Richard, Brian, and Austin.
I love writing original music. You know, it's something, when I was 18, I went to a rock school in Dublin, and it was with the fantasy of being a rock star. I wanted to be the next Bono. I wasn't really a singer back then. I think I said I didn't really start singing until I was 21, 22, but I played the guitar, I played piano. I wrote some songs, all of them awful. I remember I wrote a song when I was 17 called Tadpole Soup. And I got the lyrics from a science book, and I think it was about this dissecting a frog. So I started talking about the process of dissecting a frog, and I started jumbled some words around, and I ended up calling it tadpole soup. I can't really remember what it was now, but it was pretty bad. And Richard then, I remember it was like a year and a half ago, Richard he voice noted me on WhatsApp and said, I've got this idea for this song, and he kind of went, it's sort of this, and sort of sung it, and I was like, okay. So we got together on a ship, we found a piano, and he kind of was like, can it be this? And I will go like this. We'll go, yeah, and then what we'll do is we'll make a basic track of the song.
Rich usually comes up with some lyrical ideas and probably a melody, and Brian will then add in some of his musical thoughts, particularly maybe harmonies or stuff about form.
If you're actually creating original stuff, that can only help you. You know, I'm always thinking of melodies and lyrics. You know, I'll bring a concept to the lads and I'll say, I've got an idea for a song. It goes like this. These are the lyrics. Can we work with that?
And so I really enjoy sitting down at the piano and letting Brian and Rich kind of use me to troubleshoot the song, right? Or to fill in some missing pieces.
I've got this seed, I've got this idea. And a lot of songwriters do that. I know I was watching that Beatles documentary recently, and I think John would have, you know, a little idea. By the way, I'm not saying we're the Beatles. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just using different processes. John will say, you know, I've got this idea for the song. Kind of goes, and then Paul will go, oh right, yeah. Well, how about if it's and we sort of act in the same way. I might go, oh Rich, I've got a and he'll go, oh yeah, but how much? Maybe like a bit of a and that's sort of how we write songs. But it's such a great feeling.
And so yeah, I would say that Rich and Brian tend to come with the blueprint, with the basic song, and then I'm able to help just get it to a little bit of a next level to fill out kind of a demo, which we can then send off to whoever's going to help us record or whoever's going to help us make those really nice, sharp, professional tracks. So we sort of all have our own little job there in the songwriting process.
We're proud of the album that we've written, but again, it's difficult to record because we're all the way around the world. So we were very lucky that when we recorded our single, it was in LA, and we were on a gap between cruises. So we cruised to LA, and then we had a gap, and then we had another cruise out of LA a week later. So it worked perfectly. So we went in the studio with our producer and recorded the song. But it's fun. It's nice. I think now I'm a bit older, I write better songs than I would have written when I was younger. I don't know, call it life experience, you know, things you've gone through. You can use that in a song, and I find personally, if you write about things you know, it's more relatable. People understand it, see where you're coming from. Even if they don't like it, they get it. And yeah, I think it's important to keep, especially I think in the band as well, that keeps us united, if you like. It keeps us working together. We're always trying to work on the blend of our voices, and when you're writing your original songs, you're writing for your own voices, which is a nice position to be in.
And the original songs are just a way to even give a little bit more of an intimate piece of ourselves to the show, because we're writing our own lyrics and music that speak from our own heart. We're not doing covers, and it's a way to like really integrate ourselves even more into the show for the audience to get to know us.
My favorite thing about Unity is being able to be myself on stage with a group of guys who I just love.
As soon as that intro for that first song starts and I know I'm about to sing my first word, that's the cold water plunge, because that's all you're thinking about. And for that 45 minutes to an hour, you're only thinking about performing, being on stage with my friends, doing the best show possible for that audience, and that's the best thing for me.
We just have such a great time together, and there's something really special about creating your own work. And Brian and Rich and Garrett, they've created this piece, this group, and I'm so happy to join. I feel like I've gotten to create a little bit of my own work in the way that I sing the songs that were given to me, or the way that I interact with them on stage. That's my part that I kind of get to create myself. And there's just something really powerful about not having to listen to anyone else except the guys in the group, right? We don't have a director that's coming and telling us we need to do this, we need to do that. It's all sort of in our hands, and I really like that.
It's the magic of show business, baby. You'll be jet lagged, you'll be hungry, you'll be tired and maybe a little cranky, and when that curtain comes up and you go on that stage and it's time to perform, it's magic. It's so cool, it's so exciting. It is home for me. The stage is the most comfortable place for me. I just feel alive up there, and that's the best part. There may be little hiccups and headaches with flights and different contracts, but when we're on that stage together for that 45-minute show, it is pure magic.
Being on stage with the boys, if we come off and we've had a great gig and it's gone really well, the audience have been fantastic, we got great feedback, got rebooked for another cruise, to be able to share that experience with 3 other guys that know exactly how I'm feeling, I really enjoy that, because it's nostalgia, you can reminisce, and in the future, you can look back on it and go, we all know what that was like, and we all loved it and had a great time.
What's next for Unity? Only the future can tell.
I think the goal with Unity was always to get a headlining act in Vegas, one of the hotels, a late night performance. So I think that's always going to be that little carrot that we're chasing.
Some people might go, well, I don't know what next year's going to bring. I say we're going to bring it on, and we're going to take each opportunity.
I'd love for us to record some more songs.
I do love cruising, I do love it, but I just would love to be able to sit in a city for a while and have people come to us. We have never had any of our loved ones see this show. Not our partners, not our mom. Because we're on these cruise ships, because they come in last minute, it may be hard for our friends to book last minute. So if we could sit down somewhere in London, in Las Vegas, in Los Angeles, and share it with the people we love, that would just, I can't even imagine that feeling. That would be so full circle. That would be such a powerful moment.
Keep working hard, never rest on your laurels. Always make sure you're giving the best version of yourself. Respect each other in the band, respect the audience, respect where you're working, appreciate what you're doing. We get to travel the world, we get to see incredible places, we get to perform in state-of-the-art theatres, we get to record and perform our original material. We're artists, we're performers, we've all done it for years and years. It is golden. There's so many quality performers that never get a chance to actually do it professionally, and we do. And I think it's important to remember that. And sometimes, you're tired, you know, you're jet lagged, you've been away from home a long time. I understand sometimes that can fall by the wayside a little bit, but on a good night's sleep, a good meal, and a new contract offer, it turns itself around.
Those kind of words I never knew, they made it through eventually the darkest night and mornings too. But now I've learned there's so much more to me. When you're saying goodbye and you're all out of size and you scream when you are kneeling. Now that it's gone, I can move on. Right in the fight, find a new place to belong. Night after night, I cried oh so tired. Words said that I'd be fine one day at a time. Trust in the time and work it through. Thank God for you, that hope you gave to me. Those endless hours spent on the phone. I'm not alone. Still now it's there to see. When I couldn't get out, when I prayed and shout, you were kind and you were soothing. Now that it's gone, I can move on. Right in the fight, find a new place to be. Night after night, I cried oh so tired. Words said that I'd be fine one day at a time. Time will move on, forgive the past that went wrong, forgive the bad things I've done. It wasn't right. I've tried all the wrong ways. I'll try for all my days to live a life with joy and freedom. Night after night, I cried oh so tired. Words said that I'd be fine one day at a time. Turn my back and I cried oh so tired. Brave the storm, I can face the morning. Turn my back and I keep on running. Brave the storm, I can face the morning. Back home, one day at a time. One day at a time. One day